just after midnight in Michigan City, Indiana. The sound of Johnny Cash's 25 Minutes to Go echoed through the dark. A small crowd stood outside the Indiana State Prison, listening, waiting, as the state prepared to carry out the execution of Roy Lee Ward, a man who had spent over 2 decades on death row. At exactly 12:01 a.m. CDT, the process began. Inside the prison, it was quiet and clinical. Outside, emotions ran high, grief, anger, and defiance mixing in the cool night air. Ward's crime had haunted the small town of Dale since 2001, when he brutally killed 15-year-old Stacy Payne. Her death sent shockwaves through the community, and for years, her family waited for what they believed would be justice. Now, after multiple trials, appeals, and a plea for clemency that was denied, that moment had come. At 12:33 a.m., Roy Lee Ward was pronounced dead by lethal injection. For many in Indiana, this execution marked the end of a long and painful chapter. Roy Lee Ward had been sentenced to death in 2002 for the rape and murder of Stacy Payne, a bright 15-year-old whose life was taken far too soon. The crime was described by first responders as one of the most horrific scenes they had ever encountered. Even Ward's own defense attorney at the time called him a severe psychopath. Over the years, Ward appealed his sentence, went through a retrial, and eventually pleaded guilty. But last week, he dropped his final appeal, signaling that he was ready to face his fate. Outside the prison walls, the scene reflected the deep divide that still surrounds capital punishment. On one side, death penalty opponents prayed and held candles, calling for compassion. On the other, residents who lived near the prison gathered to celebrate what they saw as long-delayed justice. Their music clashing with the quiet prayers. Among those standing in protest was Bishop Robert McClory of the Diocese of Gary. He spoke with quiet conviction, saying that every human life has value, even the life of someone who has done terrible things. Another killing doesn't solve any problems, he said, his voice carrying across the night air. The bishop's words echoed the long-standing moral debate. Can justice ever truly come from taking another life? Yet across the street, Joshua Payne, a lifelong resident near the Indiana State Prison, had a very different view. For him, each execution was a reminder of accountability. He had made it a personal ritual, setting up his speakers, blasting songs like Another One Bites the Dust and Highway to Hell as a symbolic counterpoint to the somber chants of those protesting. They're meeting their maker, he said flatly. To him, Ward's death was not cruelty, it was closure, something that had been owed for more than 2 decades. At exactly 12:33 a.m. Central Time, Roy Lee Ward was pronounced dead. The long chapter that began in 2001, with the murder of a 15-year-old girl in Dale, Indiana, had finally come to an end. His last meal had been almost excessive, a Texas Corral feast that included a hamburger, steak melt, French fries, baked and sweet potatoes, 12 fried shrimp, chicken Alfredo, and breadsticks. For many, that detail alone stirred anger. How could a man who took a child's life be allowed such indulgence in his final moments? Yet when the curtain fell and the official pronouncement was made, there was a strange stillness. His last words were brief. Brian is going to read them. Minutes later, outside the prison, an attorney associated with his defense read a statement from his lead lawyer, Laura Volk. She described Ward as a sad, broken man, one who had changed since the day of his crime, though she never excused what he did. The statement was read slowly, each word echoing in the chill night air. In the 25 years I have done this work, it said, I can say Roy is a different person than when he went in. For the small group gathered there, it was a moment that tried to humanize a man most had long stopped seeing as human. But redemption, for some, comes too late. Inside the prison, The staff went through the motions with the precision of people who have done this before. Documentation, time logs, signatures. Outside, the crowd began to thin. Some of the protesters lingered in prayer, while others quietly packed up their signs. Across the street, Joshua Payne switched off his speakers, the last notes of Spirit in the Sky fading into silence. The night sky over Michigan City was still, illuminated only by the soft glow of the prison lights, a place where justice and morality had collided once again. By morning, the official statements began to pour in. Governor Mike Braun released a brief but pointed message confirming that the court's order had been fulfilled. Roy Lee Ward's case has been heard and reviewed numerous times, the statement read. The sentence has been carried out as ordered by the court. It was factual, emotionless, the kind of language that distills years of legal battles into a single paragraph. But Attorney General Todd Rokita's response struck a more impassioned tone. He declared that justice was done, calling the execution a long-awaited closure for the family of 15-year-old Stacey Payne. His words praised the Department of Correction for professionalism, reminding the public that those who commit such heinous crimes will face the full weight of justice. Across social media, the reactions were polarizing, some applauding the closure, others condemning the state's decision to end another life. As dawn broke over Michigan City, the prison grounds were quiet again. The crowds had dispersed, leaving only the faint echoes of Johnny Cash's song that had marked the countdown to midnight. Inside the prison, officials methodically documented the night's events, sealing off another chapter in Indiana's long, complicated history with capital punishment. For some, it was a night of justice. For others, a night of moral reckoning. On one side of the street, families mourned the lasting trauma of a young girl's stolen life. On the other, activists prayed for a nation to rethink what it means to end one. The harsh truth is that no execution brings complete peace. It cannot undo what was done in 2001. It cannot erase the fear or the pain left behind. And yet, in that silence, there's a lingering sense of finality, the kind that leaves both sides wondering if justice ever truly feels like closure. Today, only 5 men remain on Indiana's death row. Their names, for now, sit quietly in court records, each one a story waiting for its own ending. For the families of victims, each case represents years of hearings, appeals, and uncertainty. For the state, it's a reminder of the immense power that comes with deciding life and death. Roy Lee Ward's execution will likely fade from national headlines in a matter of days, but in Michigan City, the memory lingers. In the glow of streetlights across from the prison, in the hum of a neighbor's stereo, in the prayers whispered by protesters, Stacey Payne's name will never fade. Her story, her loss, is why justice was sought in the first place. But as the debate over capital punishment continues, one question echoes louder than ever. Did this final act truly deliver peace, or did it just continue a cycle that no one can ever really win?